Okay, so it's Pete back again with another little rant. Today I'm ranting about, in a positive way actually, about the new Marvel TV show, but I'm also going to cross this over with talking about my general opinion on Marvel TV shows, because the new one I've seen the first episode of today, which is Agatha All Along. Not a show I was particularly looking forward to, if I'm honest. The Marvel TV shows that Disney Plus have been putting out, I'm not really a huge fan of most of them. And although WandaVision was the first and sort of the best one they did, because WandaVision is the only one that really made sense as a TV show, all the rest just feel like 6 hour long movies. Moon Knight I quite liked as well, but most of the Marvel TV shows haven't really been for me. I wasn't a big fan of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Thought it was really boring. It started off great in the first couple of episodes, and then it got really silly and really boring by the end. Felt really preachy to me. And just Bucky and the other guy, I can't remember his name. They don't have any chemistry at all. It was rubbish. It was really rubbish. Um, what other She-Hulk? I watched like one episode of that and then I just tapped out. It was like, nah, this isn't for me. Um, I didn't even bother with Miss Marvel. Although apparently I've heard Miss Marvel's pretty good, but I'm not a fan of Captain Marvel anyway, so I just couldn't stomach that. So I didn't give that one a go. Um, so yeah, the Marvel shows, I just feel like they've just the Loki show. I'm kind of this way, that way. About bits of it I really like. Mostly, I say it's good. There are some things that annoy me about it, but overall, it was pretty good. Um, yeah, I mean, it's great to have Tom Hiddleston as Loki. You know what I mean? You can't go wrong with that. But um, so this Agatha All Along show, like, it's been in production for ages, and it's a sort of sequel to WandaVision, and I was always a bit like, really? They're doing a show based on the villain from WandaVision? Like, I really felt it was Marvel clutching at straws, but it was really sort of pointless to make it. And I couldn't understand why they were really making it. I felt like this for a lot of Phase 4. That Marvel are just sort of making less character, things that have these really minuscule characters that no one knows anything about now, and this just seemed like another one of those. So I was not really anticipating this. I wasn't bothered about it. I wasn't looking forward to it. Um, but I watched the first episode, and I have to say, I am pleasantly surprised. I actually thought it was pretty good. Is it the best show of the year? No. But actually, this first episode, I liked it. I was actually quite surprised how much I've liked it. And again, it is channeling a bit of WandaVision stuff, because the WandaVision first episode is very similar. I love stuff where it's like a distortion of reality and things that don't quite add up, and there's all these clues and stuff. But I think with WandaVision, although it did improve, I thought the first two episodes of WandaVision were painfully slow. Like, nothing was really happening, and you're really more or less just watching a sitcom. Like, I feel like if they didn't get the balance of that mystery right, like in the first episode of WandaVision, there were literally like two little bits that were like, oh, that's interesting, but the rest of it was just like an episode of a sitcom, and I really didn't appreciate that. I really felt that like the first two episodes of WandaVision could have just been one episode, really. But after that, it did get pretty good. But with this, I felt that it's the same director and stuff, same people making it. I think that it was much more gripping straight away. Like with this Agatha show, straight away I was actually really into it. I was like, this is really good. It was sort of police procedural thing. And I almost think the opposite. Like, as it's starting to change and I'm starting to see how it's going to go now, I'm like, actually, I wish it had slowed it down a bit, because I like police procedural shows, I guess, and I'm not a big fan of cheesy comedies, which is what WandaVision was like riffing off. But I actually think it's an improvement on WandaVision's first episode. I honestly think this is one of the better first episodes the Marvel series has had. And towards the end of the first episode, it get a little bit silly. I was a little bit like, there's it is a bit dumb. There's a couple of dumb things that don't quite make sense. That I don't really get, but overall, it's not a huge deal. Like, overall, I think Catherine Hahn's really good in it. Audrey Plaza is really good in it, and it doesn't really matter that I'm not watching Marvel characters that I know who they are. If they are good characters, the issue is usually when they're not, like with the Eternals or something, where it's like, well, I don't know who the Eternals are, but no, I do know who they are. They just suck, and I don't like them, so I don't want to see them again. It's not like that with this. I do think that it's good, and like I say, yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised. It had a little bit more of an adult edge to it as well. Like, not massively, but I do feel that the Marvel shows have been like too kiddie in a lot of ways, like not mature as what I would like. Hawkeye was another one. I didn't mind Hawkeye. Hawkeye was okay, but like um yeah, I felt that they've sort of gone down that humour route a bit too much, where every 2 minutes someone's cracking a joke, and it's never really very serious for very long. Again, it's the same thing with Falcon Winter Soldier. It started off sort of semi-serious and had some semi-serious moments, but it had some really stupid things in it as well that didn't really make any sense. The villain in that was awful. I'm not going to get into Falcon Winter Soldier. I really didn't like it, but this was like a little bit more adult oriented, a little bit more of an edge. It feels like Marvel are making something a little bit more different. It's not the same thing that you've seen thousands of times before with Marvel, which is what they need to do. So I like the actual way it is. Like it, if you hadn't told me it was a Marvel show, I wouldn't have known it was. And these Marvel shows, as I said, I've not got a high opinion of them really. So it's not like I've not really got a high bar to meet. And the Marvel shows as well are famous for going off the rails as they go. Like most of them, many of them, Falcon Winter Soldier, even including, start off pretty strong. They start off pretty good in the first episode, and they just lose momentum because really they're not really TV shows. They're really films that have just been cut into 6 parts, and it just becomes an overly long film that doesn't seem to end, and it doesn't have any pace to it. Falcon Winter Soldier definitely fits that mold. I'm like, this is just an awfully long, long, long Marvel film. It doesn't really do what TV is good at, which is giving us some depth of character. Like most good TV revolves around depth of character or character studies and things like that. It's not an awful lot of TV that revolves around loads of big action and set piece and stuff like that. Even things like Game of Thrones that have that in them, yes, they have action in it, but 90% of it is still the character building. And that's what TV's always been great at, is like the drama of it and stuff. Like Sopranos, another one was great with it. It's like they're not really used the TV medium as other people use TV. They've just been treating TV as if it was the same as a very long film. And I think this has started to feel for me for the first one. The only one that felt like an actual TV show to me was Moon Knight. I thought that did start again. It started really well, and I thought it actually ended okay. Although the middle episodes were a bit boring, but I like Oscar Isaac. I thought he was really good in it, and I did actually enjoy Moon Knight. I'll be honest, I did. That was different enough, and it was simple enough, and it was sort of detached enough from a lot of the other stuff I didn't like, but I was able to just enjoy it. I didn't feel with Moon Knight like you needed to understand every single little thing in the MCU to get it either. It was like it kind of worked as its own thing. Um, Shame it's not getting a second season, but there you go. Um, yeah, so but a lot of the shows have lost it as they've gone. Even WandaVision towards the end got a bit dumb. But WandaVision's my favourite one of all of them. Like I think I watched it twice. It's the only Marvel show I've gone back and watched more than once. And I do think it was they started off pretty well with WandaVision, in a way, like it was a good sort of beginning. But then the TV shows after that just went off the rails, and it's like each one seems to get progressively worse, um, and not much better. And I've not seen a fair few of them now, but I've just sort of echoing things like that. I've just not. Again, I've got no investment in watching it. I've got no interest in watching it, and I think that because there's no great big. I keep saying this, but because there's no great big thing tying it all together anymore. There's no great big impetus where everything's sort of going in the same direction like it was with Infinity Saga. It's just everyone going in their own separate little directions, and nothing is tying up, nothing is coming together. Those kind of things I find really boring, because what it's like, once you divide up all those characters and you just give them their own stories and their own things, they're not strong enough to really be something compelling. Like I don't think it's strong enough just to have like a standalone Steve, New Captain America film does look pretty good actually, but I feel like it all worked because it was all going towards that Infinity Saga. Like all the characters were feeding into that, and now they're not feeding into anything anymore. It's like they just have to stand on their own, and they don't really work. Like I don't think Ant-Man really is great without a bigger picture that he fits into. I don't think Miss Marvel or whatever that is. I don't think that really works unless you've got something bigger that it's all sort of leading to. And now I think they are finally trying to do that with going forward. I think they're going to have a bit more emphasis on leading into Secret Wars, which is, again, it's a focal point, and hopefully everything can sort of now slot into that. So once you have Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom, it'll all feel like those building blocks are building towards something. But so far, most of Marvel stuff hasn't been. And the TV shows were a really good chance to kind of add some more characterization, add some more depth to the characters. And to be honest, with WandaVision, they did actually do that. They added quite a bit of depth to Wanda and Vision. But with the other shows, it feels like they haven't really done it like as much as they could, or they've developed the characters in pretty uninteresting ways. Like Loki's become less interesting the more that TV show's gone on, and again, it's more about the female Loki than him. Like he doesn't even really the main character in his own show, which is sort of disappointing. And again, like She-Hulk, I didn't even really entertain it. I only watched the first episode, and I really didn't like how they just used and abused Mark Ruffalo, and that that's what put me off it. Essentially, was that. I mean, it was fun in a way, and in a way I sort of enjoyed it, but in another way I was like, it's just such disrespect to that character of the Hulk that Mark Ruffalo played, and it's just a terrible way for him to go out. But anyway, that's She-Hulk for you. But yeah, I would say with this Agatha Harkness show, I was pleasantly surprised. Not like the greatest thing of all time. It's not going to like win loads of Emmys or anything, but I think that it's decent and solid, and it's a little bit different, and it's got a little bit more of that dark edge to it that I like. Will it go off the rails? Will it sort of run out of juice? Will it run out of steam? I don't know. Maybe. Um, and again, I do kind of like things from a villain point of view. Sometimes it can be done quite well. Obviously, they're heavily hinting that Scarlet Witch is going to come back, and I don't want them to do that. I honestly think Scarlet Witch should just stay dead because, again, like I was reading online the other day that this writer who is obsessed with bringing Scarlet Witch back, he's like got this massive boner for Scarlet Witch, and he's like, "Oh, Scarlet Witch needs to come back. We need to bring her back. We need to." It's like, why? What is the point of bringing Scarlet Witch back? There's no more story with her. Her story was all done, to be honest. It was done with WandaVision, and then especially with Doctor Strange. I'm like, why bring her back again? Like, her story was concluded. It was finished, and we're like, oh, but it was this. It was done. Like, there was nothing else to say. Like, bring her back for what? Like, what would her purpose be? And again, without a greater threat, without a bigger thing, unless you were going to do like House of M or something and bring her back in that capacity, that would be cool, I guess, where she like uncreates all the mutants. But you've not even introduced mutants proper yet, so you can't really have that storyline until you've done that. I feel like in 10 years' time, it'd be cool to bring her back. Give it 10 years and give us some X-Men movies and then bring her back, or recast or whatever. But just to bring her back, why? Like, what is she by herself? She's not that strong a character. There's not enough with her. Like I said, with many of the Marvel characters, there's not enough about them in their own stories and their own things to really be compelling. Like, I wouldn't really be that bothered if they did like a Scarlet Witch standalone movie. Like, what would it be? Like, it's not leading into anything. It's not setting up anything. There's no need for it. It wasn't like a Black Widow movie where Black Widow was this integral character in Marvel for ages and ages that desperately needed their own film, and then by the time they got their own film, they would die. They died, which made no sense at that point. And again, Black Widow. Again, the story just doesn't. It's not a strong enough character story. Black Widow worked really well when she was a character that was slotting into that Infinity Saga, that was slotting into that big picture of, and she worked brilliantly in those Avengers movies. She was really, really good. But when you take that big picture away and it's just a focus, well, supposedly a focus story on her, it just, the wheels of it fell off a bit, and you're like, this isn't actually very good. It's not actually very interesting. So, and then the thing with the Red Room was ridiculous as well. So again, they went too far on a stupid comedy route with it again. So I do think that this is one of the better things Marvel's done for a while, and maybe this is a signal of them sort of turning things around a bit, because ever since Phase 4's kicked off, I've not been a fan of a lot of what they've done, really. I'm like, as I said this before, but a lot of it is like pretty poor and has actually got worse, and really a lot of what we're seeing now is still technically Phase 4, because what we did with Phase 4 was like, at a certain point when they thought people weren't really liking it, they were like, right, we'll stop calling it Phase 4, now we'll start Phase 5, but really it was just a name change. Like really, Phase Four was meant to include stuff like Fantastic Four. It was meant to include the Quantum Mania and stuff like that. It was meant to be this massive, ridiculously long phase of Marvel stuff. It was meant to include Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and all that stuff originally in the plan, and then they decided to cut it short and just rebadge it as Phase Five. But that's got even worse for them because all the problems people had with it were actually compounded even more since Phase Five started. That's when they've really seen the wheels fall off. So it's like by by ruining phases 4 and 5 basically because it's basically phase 4 that screwed it up because they didn't have a proper plan and they got over eager with the different projects and stuff. The Blade thing I don't think is ever going to happen. I don't think we're ever going to see that. They just they've had a few years of just effing about and making too much content too quickly, not good enough quality, doesn't tie into anything, isn't that compelling. Like I say, TV shows that don't really feel like TV shows aren't really using TV to the maximum aspect, and it's given Disney Plus shows kind of a bad name in my eyes. Like I kind of feel of it, it's a pretty poor mark when I'm like, oh, it's as good as a Disney Plus show. Like they haven't set a good standard. Like say when you talk about an HBO show, when someone says it's like an HBO show, that means that it's a quality show. When someone says, oh, it's just like an HBO series, you understand what that means. The implication is brilliant acting, brilliant script, really well done, good production values, that sort of thing when someone says it's an HBO show, because HBO is that gold standard of TV. And like when you look at, Marvel, and we talk about the Disney Plus shows, it's the opposite. It's like, it's a derogatory thing. It's like, oh, it's like a Disney Plus show because most of them are rubbish. And the funny thing is that some people talk trash about Netflix shows and know how a lot of Netflix is crap, and some of Netflix is crap. But I still think Netflix has got a better standard of TV shows than Disney Plus has. Like Netflix shows, yeah, sometimes they're very low budget, sometimes they're different, unusual things. Stranger Things, Umbrella Academy, like these things are quite cool and they're quite different, and there's something that they create a bit of a buzz. Wednesday's another one. Like there's a lot of really good Netflix shows, I think, and very few Disney Plus shows that have managed to step up to that bar. Apart from something like The Mandalorian, like most Disney Plus shows haven't managed it. Yet there's still this weird snobbery that Disney Plus is better than Netflix. It's like it's not. Just because it's got those marquee characters and the big franchises, the actual TV shows to be compared to what Netflix are putting out, it's pathetic. I mean, when you look at how much money they spent on The Acolyte and how badly that show bombed, and we look at how much money Netflix must have spent on something like Supercell, which was freaking brilliant to be honest, and again better than something like Agatha All Along. Like that was really good, and that must have been a very cheap show to make comparatively, and it got like 99% critic rating, getting another series, really good. And again, that will build up more steam as it goes. And Netflix are good at that, and I don't think Disney are good at that. They just make a show, and people watch it for a bit, and then they just forget about it, and then it never gets a second season, and they have another thing, and it's like, oh, it's okay for a bit, and forget about it. Like most of them, it's just forgettable by the numbers stuff. So I hope this is a bit better than that. Maybe it will be. We'll wait and see. I'll give another review like a few episodes in. The other thing I don't like is that they drop the episodes and drip feed them so freaking slow as well. So it's like they eke it out, one episode a week over weeks, which is I wish they just dropped the whole thing at once. It really does my head in that because I can't remember one week to the next what has happened in one episode between 1 week and the next, and there's all this stupid speculation that goes on between episodes that doesn't amount to anything because it's usually just a misdirect, and everyone makes these theories that don't come true, and it's stupid. So I don't really like that. I'd rather just wait for the whole show to be there, or like what Netflix does, just drop it all at once. I can watch it all in one go. I'd much rather have that model. That model for me works much better. But yeah, this thing of like having to wait 8 weeks or 10 weeks or something for a whole show to be done is just really annoying. I mean, that's the thing with Andor, right? It dragged on so long, and I was like, just drop it in like 3 episode chunks or something. Like, why this thing every week? Anyway, Andor was like an HBO show, actually, funnily enough. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about Andor, but yeah, I'd say it was pretty good. And although my general opinion of Marvel TV shows in the past has not been very favourable, as you can probably get from this rant, I do think Agatha All Along is shaping up to be one of the better ones, and hopefully it can sort of book that trend of poor quality Marvel TV shows that has sort of started since WandaVision, really. So hopefully we get something good out of Agatha All Along.